K Classic, K Classic, K Classic. Corner music.
They told you that you couldn't do it cause you're washed up. Ain't like them bad girls said you should get your sauce up. But I got this plan and you might not understand. I'ma go hard as I can. And I'm gonna be.
Thank you for tuning in to WDRBmedia, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. You're listening to Our Voices Radio, and I'm your host, Nichole, the creative midwife, trained, willing, and able to help you discover your creative voice and birth it for the world through whatever medium you choose to use. The sponsor for today's show is Our Voices LLC, a writing and editing consulting firm and entertainment studio ready to help you tell your story your way. For more information, go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Our Voices LLC. Today's show is I Got a Story, but what's the medium? If you were with me last week, I opened up the dialogue about creating memorable characters. We want to follow stories with strong characters at heart. Who are they? What do they want? And I wish I could be like them. But even before we get to the characters, we may have a story, but we haven't decided on what it should become. Today, we're discussing mediums. Right now, we have several to choose from. Should your story be formatted as a book, novella, graphic novel, TV series, film, poem, song, play, podcast, blog, vlog, online platforms, etc.? We live in a world where stories can evolve in numerous ways. We're also part of an industry that looks to flip your story in various mediums for monetary gain. Many of your favorite books have been flipped into film, to TV series and miniseries, theater, or possibly shown up online. But how and when should that decision be made? Let's talk about it. What's the medium for your first birth? And that's pretty much what I call it. Usually when clients come to me with their manuscripts, they'll say, yes, it's a book, and we'll look at the story. If the story is particularly just narration, then yes, it should definitely be a book. This way you're able to kind of delve into the characters' minds, find out what's going on their innermost thoughts, and push it that way. There's usually an outside voice that talks about what's going on with the different characters. That screams book all day long. Then you have something where you have a story that's mostly is what you see. You have visuals. If visuals are driving your story, that's a film. You see outsides, you're going from place to place, you're going from scene to scene, you're going from location to location. Film drives that all day long. Films are more visual than anything else. Yes, you have your dialogue. Yes, you have things that are going on, but it's about pictures that are moving your story. If you want to talk about the inner life of your people in one or two or maybe three particular places, that's theater. Theater has minimal locations because you're just in a black box. You're not going anywhere. You may be able to give the illusion that you're going from place to place, but really you're staying in one solid location. You're figuring out what's going on with your characters' inner lives, and you get to have dialogue that is poetic. It doesn't have to be the normal dialogue that you hear on a day-to-day basis when you're speaking with your friends in the street. It doesn't have to be natural. It can be anything that you desire. You can create a whole new dialogue, a whole new language. That kind of thing lives on stage all day long. With theater, you want to be able to transform a black box into an imaginary place, into a place from you can see down the street. It could be a salon. It could be just a street corner. It could be a garage. But it's usually one space where your story will take place in. Now, if you have something that has visuals and what I call talking heads, that's television. Television is a bridge between film and theater. Television takes the best of what theater does in terms of dialogue and the best of what film does, which is in terms of visuals, and plays in those spaces. The last space I want to talk about, if something is purely the voice, just like what we're doing right now, radio, podcasts, it's all about the drama of the voice. When we come back, we will continue our discussion on I Got a Story, but what's the medium? You're listening to Our Voices Radio, and I'm your host, Nichole, the creative midwife. You're tuned in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. We'll be right back after the break.
Can I be honest? Sometimes I don't understand. What do you let me fall when the world is in your hand? You could stop it all if you wanted to, but you don't, you just let me go through. But I know you never let it kill me, only make me strong. I know that it's all for a purpose. I know it will all be worth it. Oh, I just gotta keep on, believing. And I have to know it's in His plan. He knows what's best for me, so I can't get distracted by what I see. So forget about the problems you're in, because He already worked it out in the end. So I dare you to trust Him right where you are. I know that it's all. Yes, I know. It's all for a purpose. I know it will all be. Yes, it will all be worth it. I know. I gotta keep on believing. Oh, I have to know that it's in His plan. It's all in His plan. It's all in His plan. I have to know. 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 It may not have happened on purpose. It was for a purpose. I can't have no testimony if there's no first to tell. Even in the midst of it, still I have to know. Time you wanted to give up, believe it or not, it was in His plan. That night you cried all night long, it was in His plan. I just have to keep on believing, and I have to know it.
Welcome back to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, and those streaming live through free TuneIn Radio app and through iHeartRadio. You're listening to Our Voices Radio, and I'm your host, Nichole, the creative midwife. If you're just tuning in, we're discussing I Got a Story, but what's the medium? On Our Voices Radio, and I'm your host, Nichole, the creative midwife, trained, willing, and able to help you discover your creative voice and birth it for the world through whatever medium you choose to use. In the last segment, I spoke about deciding on the medium of your story's first birth, meaning this is the first time you roll out your story for others to encounter. The medium you choose will give them the broadcast experience for your material. So, how do stories morph from one medium to another? First thing, strong stories with larger than life storytelling. If your piece is a visually told narrative, you're thinking of things like The Color Purple. You remember, it started off as a book. Then, because of Oprah Winfrey, it morphed into a film. And again, with Oprah Winfrey, it morphed into theater. But here's a story that was very compelling. It had a lot of inner life. It had a lot of drama. And then it also had a journey that was compelling enough for all of us who read the book were like, man, I can truly see this story. I want to see Celie. I want to see Nettie. I want to see these sisters interact. I want to know who Mr. is. I want to know who is this man that's just so awful and just not thinking about anyone who's around him. I want to see the place where the children are coming from Africa. I want to see when the sisters are torn apart. This we're talking about is a compelling story, a story that was narrative, but it had some visuals that just made us demand to see more. Another way is that you must have strong, memorable characters. This is for all of my comic book fans. Here's where you have comic books, whether you're a DC or a Marvel fan, you had the comic books. For some of these, they became cartoons on Saturday mornings. And then from cartoons on Saturday mornings on your television screen, they then may have become movies that were either cartoon or finally the live action. So you've got the memorable characters. You know what we're talking about: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the X-Men. These are memorable characters, and we wanted to see them in complete fullness in these different arenas. Another way, they have a large literary following, or they have a bang up at the box office. So in here, we're going to talk about Nicholas Sparks, who has written 21 novels, of which 11 have been flipped into movies. You know who I'm talking about. He wrote The Notebook, Nights in Rodanthe, Dear John, A Walk to Remember, Message in a Bottle, etc. These are stories that were compelling as books. And then we wanted to see these characters live on big screens. We wanted to follow their stories. They're romantic. It's romance. It's relationship. It's characters we wanted to see. The last one, you may have a story that has a natural crossover to other mediums. For this one, I give you Soul Food. First, it was a movie. Then it became a hit TV series. It went over 5 years. And for that, that's what we're looking for. So here you had a natural storyline that said, you know what, we need to be in television, something that we want to come into your living room every single week. You want to know what these characters were going to get into. You want to know if so-and-so was going to fall in love with the other person, or if we're going to have another issue with somebody's husband. But you wanted to see those characters all the way through. The next is, do you have vision for your story? And how big is that vision? Think about it. When you're writing your story, when you've got it there in front of you, have you created a one-hit wonder? Meaning this is a story that we see one time and one time only. There will be no other characters. There will be no other lives. There will be no stories. When you hit the end, it's over. It's done. Or perhaps you've created a serial, meaning you've got a story that has 2 or 3 other movies behind it, or 2 or 3 other books behind it. But either way, you've got a story that's much bigger than just one platform. It wants to go on and on and on. And in that, you can get a lot of not just information, but a lot of life from those type of stories. These are stories where, say you, kind of like Star Wars. Star Wars started off in the middle of the story, went forward, then went backward, but was able eventually from one story, it grew to 9 films, not to mention the books, not to mention the other offshoots, not to mention all the merchandise that Star Wars has, but it just kept going on and on and on. And then the last one, have you created such a huge, compelling story that it needs to branch out into a franchise? That's your Star Wars. That's your Star Trek. That's everything that is Avenger. That is your DC Comics. Those are franchises. These are stories that just have stories within stories within stories, and then they have compelling characters that can have offshoots. So that way the stories never die, the franchise keeps growing, and you just sit there and you're using one idea that has broken off into so many other arenas. What do you have? What's on your plate? What have you created? Or have you even thought about it? If you haven't thought about it, look in your manuscript and find out, what is my vision? What do I really want with this piece? Where do I see it growing? What do I see it becoming? Have not just a short-term vision for your piece, have a long-term vision for your piece. Right now, everything is about pivoting stories. So say you do start off in a book. Okay, can you pivot it off into a film? Can you pivot it off into theater? Can you do web series? Can you do comic books? What can you do with that one story? No longer is it about how many stories can I pump out. It's how much life can I get out of the one story I've already created? How many ways, how many avenues can I push that piece so that it is doing more for me than I could have ever done with 10 or 11 different pieces. I mean, unless your name is Nicholas Sparks and you just have books coming out every other year. But if not, get the most bang for your buck in terms of that particular piece.
We're gonna have some fun tonight.
After the break, we'll wrap our discussion on I Got a Story, but what's the medium? You're tuned in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. Don't go anywhere because we'll be right back.
Out on the night, yeah. We've been turning living rooms into life rooms. We've been giving God room with these life tunes. We just get too busy living and watching others live that we forget the one who gave us life. So we've been turning living rooms into life rooms. Hey. We've been turning living rooms into life rooms. We've been giving God room with these life tunes. We just get too busy living and watching others live that we forget the one who gave us life. So we've been turning living rooms into life rooms. La da da ba da da ba da da See, we've been turning living rooms into life rooms. Y'all got the song, let me y'all sing it. Say, we've been turning living rooms into life rooms. Yeah, no, come on, say it. We've been giving God room with this life tunes. Yeah, come on. We just get too busy living and watching others live that we forget the one who gave us life. So we've been turning living rooms into life rooms. Yeah, D1, come on, boy.
My self-worth ain't determined by my net worth, cause God gave me a purpose on this earth. If I don't sell a lot of records, I ain't stressing. I'd much rather go platinum in heaven. See, life is full of distractions, and we become addicted to their temporary satisfaction. But yo, this ain't the end, there's another life after. So I work like a slave, but I serve the right master. Faster, time's ticking every day. I'm trying to right my wrongs and do what the pastor say. Man, I was reborn, Christ wiped my past away. When you gon' finally make a change? When you pass away? Yo, it all starts off by knowing one thing. We were only born to bring glory to our King. I was like an all-star on a losing team. God signed me as a free agent. Now I'm winning rings. We've been turning living rooms into life. Say that.
Hey, no, we've been, come on.
We've been giving out room with these life tunes.
See, we just get too busy living and watching others live. We forget the one who gave us life. So we've been turning living rooms into life rooms. Y'all make some noise for D1 from New Orleans.
When I
sit all by myself when I got no one else. Out of all the things I'm searching for, you remain the same. And I really don't know why, but people switch up all the time. But you got that consistency, and that'll never change. Even when it gets rough, you are the one I look to. You are the one I always call on. Dark days when it's too much, all of my pain I give you. You have found my peace. I can feel it in my veins now. I can make it through the pain now. You bring me joy. I never could explain it, but I never wanna change it. You bring me joy. I filled up my closet with so many things that I adore, but none of these things can bring me peace when tears are falling on the floor. So I look up to heaven and ask God where to start. Cause the cars, the clothes, the fancy things can't bring joy to my heart. Even when it gets rough, you are the one I look to. You are the one I always call on. Dark days when it's too much, all of my pain I give you. You have found my peace. I can feel it in my veins now. I can make it through the pain now. You bring me joy. I never could explain it, but I never wanna change it. You bring me joy. You've been so good. You've been so good. I got joy. The world didn't give it to me. I got joy. I got joy. Unspeakable joy. Hey, yeah. No, no. I can feel it in my veins now. I can make it through the pain now. You bring me joy. I never could explain it, but I never wanna change it. You bring me joy.
Calling all business owners, all independent artists, and all nonprofit organizations. If you are in need of radio advertising, we encourage you to call 877-342-7770. That's 877-342-7770. Through their Community Give Back Project, there is an entrepreneur foundation that is paying for free radio advertising. That's right, I said free, F-R-E-E, in support of our small business owners, independent artists, and nonprofit organizations. Please call 877-342-7770 in order to receive your free radio advertising today.
Welcome back to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, and those streaming live through free TuneIn Radio app and through iHeartRadio. You're listening to Our Voices Radio, and I'm your host, Nichole, the creative midwife. If you're just tuning in, we're discussing I Got a Story, but what's the medium? On Our Voices Radio, and I'm your host, Nichole, the creative midwife, trained, willing, and able to help you discover your creative voice and birth it for the world through whatever medium you choose to use. In the last segment, I discussed the need to understand the depth and breadth of your story. This informs how it needs to be told and the ways it can morph if given the opportunity. If you believe you've written a universe, allow your story to morph in as many ways as possible. Don't stifle the creativity. What would Star Wars have been without the films, books, TV series, and toys? How about Star Trek with the original TV series, books, movies, toys, and subsequent TV show spinoffs? Bottom line is this: have a vision for your story and walk that thing out. If you know you've got the seeds for a franchise, build on it through its fruition. And remember, don't tell everybody what you're doing. Just do it and let people be surprised. Let them feel like it's Christmas. And you say, hey, go on such and such and check this out. Hey, go on such and such and check this out. Hey, this piece of mine just won an award. Hey, this piece of mine is going to be on whatever other platform. Only allow those in your small universe to be the ones to give you feedback, to be the ones to speak life, to be the ones to encourage. Because naysayers are real, haters are real, and they can talk you out of your dream. Understand, everyone doesn't dream big. They just don't. Everyone doesn't believe big. Their minds won't even go there. So you want to surround yourself with people who not only get your vision, who get you, and who also know how to dream big. The other thing that I want you to do is flip your story into as many mediums as possible. Your vision is only as limited as your imagination can take you. All right, it's that time again. Bookshelf. That's right, more homework. So here are some recommended books by authentic creative voices. These are books I wish would flip into other mediums. The first one, Wild Seed and Kindred by Octavia Butler. This was a bad sister. She was one of the first African-American women writing for science fiction. Yes, I enjoy science fiction. I write science fiction. This woman was a lifesaver for me when I was an undergrad at Northwestern. I got into her work, and it was the first time I could see Black people living beyond the 20th and 21st century. My God, we had a future with this woman. So currently, actor-producer Viola Davis and director-producer Ava DuVernay are looking to flip this material into other ventures. Yes! The next piece is The Prisoner's Wife by Asha Bandale. Touching, gripping, challenging memoir that should see the light of day on screen. Join us next week as we continue our discussion with 911. My scenes just flatlined. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Continue to tune in every Friday at 2:30 p.m. Please remember to connect with me by going to WDRBmedia.com, click on the radio shows tab, and go to Our Voices radio page. Also, if you want to be a guest on the show or want free advertising, reach me on my website at NicholeMPalmer.com. That's NicholeMPalmer.com. Or go to my Facebook page at facebook.com/Our Voices LLC. Something else, you can also leave me questions and I'll answer them on the page. You've been listening to Our Voices Radio, and I'm your host, Nichole, the Creative Midwife, on WDRB Media, the voice of the community, for double the information and inspiration. Until next week, thanks and peace. And remember, in the end, you must write the vision and make it plain.
Ain't like them bad girls said you should get your sauce up. But I got this plan and you might not understand. I'ma go hard as I can, and I'm gonna be the boss of it. And just watch me do this, put no limits, only swag on it. Walk right up to the front where I belong and brag on it. Go to the top, I'ma give it all I got. Might take a lot, but we ain't gonna ever stop. I do believe I'm something special, can't take that from me. So you can say what you want, I go harder, stronger, be who I'm supposed to be. Cause I'm unstoppable, I get all the way in it. That's the way I was made, and I'm up on my business. Cause I'm unstoppable, ain't no hoping and wishing. Say a prayer, catch a wave, then I go out and get it. Cause I can be what I want, try it if I want. Empowered by the king, and he won't let me fall. Cause I'm unstoppable, nah, he won't let me fall. About it, I go get it, that's how I do it. Not in the stars, I'm not lucky, I just pray through it. Fall on my face and I might make mistakes, but I don't let it break me, cause I'm still on my way.